Welcome back, fellow jazz buns. Felipe here today. Today I'm gonna talk about a new AAA all analog series that's been done on the Bethlehem label by BMG. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe. Please follow us on Instagram, follow us on our Discord server. It's a really fun and cool place to have great discussions about jazz. And let's keep going. So BMG has just announced a couple months ago, and the records are about to come out on July 12th. The first title is going to be released, but first let's understand a little bit what Bethlehem is and its importance. Bethlehem was founded in 1953 by a Swiss immigrant, Gus Wilde. It was a really interesting label. It was founded in 1953 and until 1957 was only releasing 10 inches. The main guy there for A&R and design was Creed Taylor, and the label was very distinguished by giving its artists a very good creative liberty and control over their music, and was one of the first, if not the first, to discover the power of the cover art, even a 10-inch, not even a 12-inch, as Blue Note would discover and many others would do it later. But a 10-inch, they are doing already paying attention to that. Just look at those Chris Connor album covers, those 10 inches, and you can tell how much effort and care is being put there as a selling point as well. So in '56, Creed Taylor leaves the label. The label passes through many ownership changes throughout the years, and finally it was acquired by BMG in 2015. And the roster is great. It includes people like Mingus, Chris Connor, Nina Simone, Oscar Pettiford, Howard McGee, Mel Torme, etc. So there's a lot of good things to come out of their catalog. In Europe and the UK, they were licensed to London Records. Pressings are done by Decca, which is supposedly counted to be as good as, if not better than, the original US releases. So, to start with, we have two titles scheduled to start this year with the series. The first title, which I'm going to talk about today, is going to be available on July 12th. The second title got a pressing delay. There was a pressing defect. They had to go back and redo the whole thing. So this is going to be available later in the year. I'm not sure if it's September or at a later date. But first, the first title to come out of the series is this one, The Jazz Experiments of Charlie Mingus. This record is actually a reissue, like a comp, let's say, or a twofer. It was recorded in 1954 on the Period label, and those two volumes were actually called Jazzical Moods. And according to Mingus, it was his idea to put this jazzical, kind of suggesting jazz and classical fusion there. He was experimenting, not only fusing them, but using newer jazz from the mid-50s with some little bit of old jazz from the past decades, and the same thing with classical. He was trying to fuse the new tendencies in classical with the old school of classical. This becomes quite evident when you look at Mingus' own background in classical as a cello player, and so that's one of the main important and key elements on the band. By the way, the lineup, we have Charles Mingus on bass and piano. We have a key name here, John LaPorta, playing clarinet and alto saxophone. Together with Theo and Mingus, he was a member of the Jazz Composers Workshop. It was a group that aimed to combine jazz and classical. He worked with Bernstein, Stravinsky, Stokowski. In jazz, he works with Miles, Dizzy, Charlie Parker, Lester Young, as a player, as an arranger, as a songwriter. This guy has a lot of story there, and I think he leaves a very important footprint on this record, and this record, in my opinion, would not be the same without him. Of course, you have then Ted Jones on trumpet, no need for introductions here. Same with Theo Macero, tenor and baritone saxophone. Theo, who became famous, important Miles producer, right? In the late 50s, 60s, 70s. He was a very accomplished musician as well, and has his own releases. And then Jackson Wiley, a very, very important and well-regarded cellist and conductor. Then I have Clem DeRosa on drums. He played with Glenn Miller, he played with Thelma Cero after the war, with Mingus, Teddy Wilson, Phil Woods, Coleman Hawkins. He played with John LaPorta. In the 60s, he becomes one of the greatest jazz educators, one of the most important people in jazz education in history. He's one of the founders of the NAJE. So LaPorta wrote 2 pieces with Mingus on the album, and he was the arranger. The listener can instantly feel this jazz and classical interplay that, although tried and executed many times in countless albums, it requires a new form here. The horns clearly deliver a jazz performance, but the moods and constructions do not necessarily suggest that. So briefly, songs like Minor Intrusion are a great example where many attempts happen throughout the song to change the scores, but the cello and bass, they maintain and unify the harmonic structure. It's one of the key pieces on the record, along and another one on the side B, which I'm going to talk about. But the record also actually opens with a song called What Is This Thing Called Love? It's a Mingus experiment. We have many melodic lines juxtaposed, which may sound confusing at first, but ultimately they just enhance the individual character of each one of the instruments. Stormy Weather closes the side. It's a LaPorta song, perfect for Ted Jones to showcase his talent and tone. It's a beautiful, very nice song there. Side B has rich examples of the classical influence, where Four Hands is the first track where Mingus actually plays piano ever, and has a beautiful solo by LaPorta. So there comes the title, Four Hands. 2 hands for the bass, 2 hands for the piano. Thrice Upon a Time is a track that actually has distinct parts as a classical piece, as movements, but they do not follow traditional forms. It's kind of circular, goes back and forth, things don't go as expected, they keep coming back, and the end is kind of chaotic, so it's a really interesting experiment there, kind of reminiscent of this more modern jazz or even more classical approach. The album closes with Spur of the Moment, which is not to be confused with or Sparley's Spur of the Moment. It showcases a Ted Jones opening the track, and is beautifully concluded by both saxophones dialoguing and closing the entire record. So now let's talk more about this reissue. For sure, they took no shortcuts here. From outside, the jacket comes on a heavy tip-on jacket. Really nice, well done. The only flaw here was the paper inners. That's something that should be thought about, and probably next time, you know, it's not too much to ask for. I think it just it's icing on the cake. That would be perfect, terrific. The record though came immaculate, came flat and ready to go. Really, really nice. Thick record there, you can tell. Nice reproduction on the label. The cover art and the exterior, they look exactly like the original. They changed nothing here, and I think it adds a nice touch to have the barcode on the hyper sticker, so the cover has no barcodes. Only difference is the address at the bottom. Of course, they will not be able to use the same address, but anyways, it's beautiful. The only difference too in terms of tonality is just the, not sure if it's visible here, but the original has a little bit lighter colors. The colors have not so much value as the colors on the reissue. Besides that, it's a really great reproduction. My thoughts on it sonically, right? I think that's what most people want to hear. First, the whole series is going to be cut by Bernie Grundman from original master tapes, and this first one was pressed at GZ. My comparisons to the original, okay? The original sonically at first it sounds good. It has very urgent and loud with the horns and the cymbals, like very upfront. Some instruments, especially the cello and piano, they seem to have their tonality somehow restricted, shy, kind of hidden, not a full potential. There they are, but listeners got to pay attention, and attention is required to those ones. In the reissue, the most clear thing I can tell from Bernie Grundman's work from the get-go is that the overall identity of the album is maintained. The way things sound, the way they are presented, still there. It's very close to the original in terms of its own presentation, the way the instruments are presented. However, the rhythm section, especially as I mentioned, cello, piano, and some of the drumming that was somehow submerged, actually is brought back to life and joins the rest of the band. And now this record is delivered its full potential. All these ragged edges, the incoherence that's sometimes felt in the original, is mostly gone, just because of pressing conditions, the noise level that you get on the original, the mastering, don't know. What we got here with Bernie's cut is an experience that becomes more fluid, lively, where each instrument becomes a world of its own, but it only benefits to the final result of the group as a band. So I think they hit the jackpot on the first one. I'm truly happy. It's an amazing work here by Bernie Grandma, which is no surprise to anybody. I think what we expected to see the most was how it would be presented, delivered, and they delivered for sure. This record will be available at normal retail, not direct to consumer, at a suggest MSRP of $29.98, which in this audiophile pressings, high quality things, I think $30 is a very good price point, very attractive. Wait for a sale or not, it's still a very competitive. If you think that most of audiophile things, the price point seems to be $40 these days. My take on it is highly recommended. I think it's a good introduction to Charlie Mingus. There's beautiful bass playing here. The notes on the bass, they come so clear, sharp in a sequence, and I have a two-bap, and I can hear the bass very, very sharp and clear and loud, but not interfering, not muddy, not too much at some point. It is a really nicely presented bass album by Mingus on a classical context, on a classical environment, with a beautiful horns, especially by Laporte. I think Laporte adds the beauty contour, like a nice frame to this record, makes it coherent, makes it attractive, and a very fun, great listen to. So again, very recommended. Let's see what we wait for the next time. For the next title, Left Alone by Mal Waldron, which should be coming soon. One of his many tributes to Billie Holiday. Thank you so much for watching. See you next.